products was a win for the industry and an even bigger one for consumers. However, a bigger battle looms as the government has accelerated the promulgation of the Control of Tobacco and Electronic Delivery Systems Bill 2018. With the accelerated promulgation of the bill, health organizations and anti-tobacco lobbyists are magnifying the harms associated with smoking without factoring in products such as electronic vapor products or EVPs, or rather to provide a different perspective on the various stakeholders in the industry. We're joined by Dr. Delon Human, and of course he's the co-chair of the Africa Harm Reduction Alliance. Welcome to our program, sir. All right.
Thank you. Right. Thank you, Colin.
And we have consumer advocate Kurt Ewer. You also welcome.
Thank you very much, Colin.
All right. Starting with you, well, Dr. Human, firstly, what is your perspective for this outcome, rather concerning this outcome?
Well, I think we've learned many lessons during COVID where it was imperative for the World Health Organization and governments to accurately communicate risk about the virus. And all of us as public citizens understand that the COVID virus is more dangerous than the common flu or cold virus. Likewise, this is what we really are expecting of global public health and the government, that they give accurate risk communication of tobacco and nicotine products. And there's a huge difference between combustible cigarettes and electronic vaping products. People tend to smoke for the nicotine, but they die of the tar that's associated with cigarettes. And it was a tragedy that during lockdown, the access to electronic vaping products was really banned. Now it's in the next phase where the bill is being looked at for tobacco and electronic vaping products, and it's an opportunity for public health to act responsibly and to make sure that the regulations are proportionate to risk so that consumers have the right information and can have the choice to choose less harmful products as opposed to the most harmful products, which are the cigarettes.
Okay, so let me get it from Advocate Yu. What's your view? Do you agree?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the vape, I mean, I was an ex-smoker for 20 plus years, and switching over to a vaping product has definitely provided a great sense of feeling better. And I believe that I agree full-heartedly with Dr. Human, is that we need to seriously look at vaping products and being able to make proper decisions based around these products, and they are significantly different to smoking cigarettes.
All right. Given that you have had a taste of both worlds, how differently does it feel to be a former smoker and now a vapor?
Well, I think it's very well reported in what smokers can go through in terms of the smoke-related diseases as well as the ailments. As a smoker, I used to struggle breathing, exercising, get up in the mornings with a very, very harsh cough, and typically feeling quite flat. When I switched over to electronic vaping products, or vaping as we call it, just under 7 years ago, within a few months, I started seeing those changes. And as I speak today, I can climb a flight of stairs, for example. I can do hikes. I don't wake up with a horrible cough. And I do feel genuinely a lot better using nicotine products than I do when I was smoking.
Right. So, Dr. Human, what do you think about the legislative aspect of this concerning tobacco and vaping? Do they have to be regulated separately?
Absolutely. Colin, we would advocate for a separate category for electronic vaping products so that it is proportionate to the risk. It's been well reported, and there's general consensus that this category is at least 95% less harmful than combustible cigarettes. And why would you regulate that category the same as cigarettes, which is the most deadly consumer product? Just makes no sense at all. And to me, it's, as a physician, as a South African physician having treated thousands of patients like Kurt, who report that after they stop smoking and they use vaping to either switch or quit smoking, they taste better, they smell better, they breathe better, they can be with their children. There's no danger to secondhand smoking that you would have with cigarettes. So obviously you would want to have regulation to be in that way proportionate and reasonable to agree. You want to make it attractive for adult smokers to switch or to quit smoking by going to a much less harmful category and type of product.
But then the argument would be harm is harm, whether extensive or less. So then when it comes to differentiating between smoking and vaping, should there be other alternative measures of one getting relief from their addiction? Because nobody would say that I smoke when I want to. Sometimes they smoke because it's the urge that they're feeling, because they want to light up one.
Colin, if I may just differ with you with great respect, all harm is not the same. So, for instance, often the criticism against vaping products is that we don't have long-term research to prove their relative safety. But in the same way, we don't have long-term research to prove the safety of parachutes. But we accept that parachutes is a much safer way of jumping out of an airplane than not having a parachute at all. So in a way, vaping products are the parachutes for smokers who want to switch. And it is an infinitely less harmful lifestyle to adopt. There's also consensus that quitting all substances is the best policy. But it will be a long time before our consumers in South Africa will quit alcohol, will quit caffeine, will quit all types of nicotine. So it is imperative for the government to set up a regulatory framework that addresses the realities of the consumer's life in South Africa and make sure that they have information, accurate risk information, as to what categories they can enjoy with relative safety or at least less relative harm.
So when it comes to the campaign of the anti-tobacco lobby, do you think that the voice of vaping has been lost in the debate?
Absolutely, without a doubt. There's a general consensus that nicotine is what causes all the damage. But as Dr. Human had indicated earlier, people smoke for nicotine, but they die from the tar. So, it's definitely getting lost, and unfortunately it's getting lumped into the same category, and it's certainly not the same category. And therefore, once again, I would have to agree with Dr. Human. It needs to be regulated and addressed very differently. It is a harm reduction method and technology.
All right, so when we look at the issue of age restriction, people would say that you can't encourage a young person to smoke until they are an adult to decide for themselves. When it comes to vaping, would you recommend that young people or even children do vaping because it's not regarded as smoking?
Absolutely not, without a doubt. It certainly should not be encouraged or even advertised or marketed for younger people. It's an adult product for smokers who are wishing to quit smoking and have failed to do so via traditional NRTs, nicotine replacement therapies, or any other method. And, most smokers would tell you that they have attempted many times before using other methods. And vaping just happens to be one of those methods that has proven to be hugely successful. But it is no ways should be marketed or made available to underage people, under 18. Certainly not.
All right, so Dr. Human, going forward, what is it that you would like to see happen as far as engaging government and the society in the interest of all for this issue of vaping to be resolved?
Colin, I would advocate firstly that the voice of the consumer should not be ignored. For too long, the consumers have been the orphans of this discussion, and there's been a top-down paternalistic imposition of regulation on consumer groups. And I think it's not only in South Africa, in many other countries. It's imperative that the consumer is firstly included in the conversation. If an ex-smoker, a current vapor like Kurt says he can now breathe, smell, taste better, and he has a much higher quality lifestyle, this really needs to be measured and taken into account. In terms of regulation, that's where the rubber hits the road, and we would strongly encourage the government to make sure that they look for a whole of society solution to this. One factor which has perhaps not been highlighted enough is take what happened during lockdown when electronic vaping products were banned, cigarettes as well, and you had this huge boom of illicitly traded products. So it's a lose-lose-lose. It's a loss firstly for the individuals who did not have access to vaping. It's a loss to population health because those who vape might go back to black market cigarettes, and it's a loss to the economy. So it just makes absolute sense for government and all stakeholders to sit around the table and to make sure that they make policy based on sound science. And we believe that science is on our side. Vaping is there. It's, if you want, a fire escape. If we were all in a big room on fire, then vaping becomes a fire escape. You can escape through that door and escape the combustion of tobacco. And that's what we hope government and all stakeholders will take into account when new preferred regulation is settled upon.
All right, gentlemen, I thank you so much for joining us on our program today. And of course, I like your analogy of, escape routes. But when I get off a plane next time, I will remember a parachute.
Thank you, Colin.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. We are speaking here to a consumer advocate who is Advocate Kurt Rio, as well as Dr. Delon Human, who is co-chair of the African Harm Reduction Alliance.